We've got some.
Hey, I'm Luis.
And I'm Luis.
And you're listening to the Content is Profit podcast.
And we spent the last 4 years learning the strategies and techniques from some of the top marketers in the world on how to create content that turns into profit.
If you'd like to learn how to turn that content into profit, go to contentisprofit.com. Step number 1 is right there for you.
That is right. And today, incredible topic. Incredible guest.
Ooh.
We're going to be talking about the secret to owning your career and your life.
I love that this is the topic today because yesterday we were in a full-day BIZBROS retreat talking about this one thing. So
Yes.
I cannot wait to deep dive.
I know. I think it comes at the perfect time, if I'm being honest.
I love it.
Yep.
Hey, Fonzie, question. Do we have a sponsor today?
Indeed we do. Thank you for asking, good sir.
You're welcome.
And today's sponsor is your own, the BIZBROS.
Let's go.
With content momentum. And you might be asking yourself, what is content momentum? Well, if you produce a long-form piece of content, just like this one that you're listening to or watching, and you need a plug-and-play team that comes into your business and helps you leverage your effort and amplify your message, right? We can turn all that content into value-packed bite-sized assets and then send them like little minions to the interwebs so they can help you get more clients. Then we are here for you.
Yes.
Slide in the DMs at BIZBROSCO on Facebook, on Instagram.
Yeah, hashtag TableFace. Don't be shy, guys. Go ahead and reach out and go ahead and follow the show because every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturdays, these audios are dropping with incredible value and also on social media at BIZBROSCO. All those golden boulders are coming to you so you can take action and create that momentum in your business.
That is
so
right.
Good.
And if you find today's episode impactful, please don't forget to share it with somebody else. You might be creating that impact in their life as well. And a little bit of a selfish ask. Please leave a 5-star review. We ask this so our podcast can climb through the ranks and help more people. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy Wednesday. I hope you are ready to get inspired. Today's guest is about to challenge the way you think and live with the purpose of making you get the absolute most out of life.
That is right. Today's guest is the author of Own Your Career, Own Your Life, which we'll be talking about today. He's also a consultant, coach, speaker, and a facilitator. Is there anything this man can't do?
He can do it all, my friend. He's also the host of 2 podcasts, the Talent Development Hot Seat, and another one that we'll share later, or we will spoil the surprise. Most importantly, today's guest is a husband and a father whose mission is to get the absolute most out of life.
I'm so excited. Please welcome author, podcast host, and absolute legend, Andy Storch.
Yeah!
Let's go,
I'm so
Andy.
excited to be here, and I'm filming this on my iPhone right now so I can get some content, right? We gotta get some content.
That is
out of this.
right.
Apparently, content is king, content is profit. Guys, thank you so much for having me on. Thank you for that awesome introduction. You are the best. I'm excited.
Thank
Dude,
you, Andy.
Thank you for being here.
And thank you for documenting this experience. That's what it's all about. If we're having fun, and maybe please send that over to us so we can put it as a testimony.
That is right. We need to change the name of the Content is Profit podcast to the Content is Profit Funcast. That's what it's all about.
Yes.
I know. We've been mentioning that. Andy, it's an absolute pleasure having you here, man. Thank you so much for coming into the show and sharing all your story and your secrets and all the stuff that makes you Andy. And we connected a few months ago thanks to our common friend, Pablo. Shout out to Pablo. And Pablo.
Shout out to Pablo.
Yeah. And I can't wait to dive in. So for those who don't know you, Andy, do you want to share a little bit of your story? How did everything start? Was this always your thought from the very beginning, the company that you're building and the impact that you're creating?
No, I mean, I think like with many people's careers, and I know a little bit of your story as well, we kind of go on this meandering path and we're trying different things and we meet different people and we get opportunities that come our way. We run into failures or mistakes or challenges and that we pivot to other things. And then we get to where we are and we just try to get better all the time. And that's what I'm doing. So I started out, after college, I tried to get into entrepreneurship because I discovered entrepreneurship when I read a book called, I'm a Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Almost forgot that one. And then I joined some startups. I started some companies. Everything failed. Nothing worked out. And then I got into the corporate world for a while. I got an MBA. I moved from Florida to California. And I spent time out there. And luckily, I got into consulting for a really cool company, a global company called BTS. And I got a chance to travel around the world, working with executives and managers, creating and running experiential learning workshops, business simulations, teaching finance, business acumen, and leadership. And I learned a ton from that time, especially working with all these leaders about, what it takes to run a successful business, and really observing people in, who seem to be really happy in their career and who, despite their quote unquote success, seem to be really drifting and not really that happy or excited or really accomplishing much. And I kind of was storing all that in my head. And around the time of 2016, I discovered the world of personal development, personal growth, and I started making some big changes in my life. And I rediscovered entrepreneurship and realized that it's what I'm destined to get into, that I'm destined to be an entrepreneur. It's something I love. I want to run my own business, grow my own thing. I love taking the risk, all the stuff that you guys are doing as well. And so I became an independent consultant, mostly selling training programs to big companies and running a lot of leadership development workshops.
Yeah.
And then early in 2020, or along the way, by the way, I started 2 podcasts. So I started really getting into content from others. I loved podcasts and social media. And I started my first podcast in 2017, and then another one in 2018 to really support my business in talent development, and started sharing a lot of my journey and everything I was doing on social media, and really found that I loved it and that I was able to help and inspire a lot of people. So that's where I started growing in terms of content production and just learning about building a personal brand. And the podcast, the business podcast I started, the Talent Development Hot Seat, continued to grow. And in early 2020, I hosted a conference with a friend of mine called the Talent Development Think Tank. And that was a huge success. It was sold out after 9 months of really hard work of leveraging content to market the hell out of this conference. And finally, we sold it out, and it was a big success, and business was booming. And then March 2020 hit, COVID hit, the world shut down. My whole business was selling in-person training programs and flying around the country, running leadership development workshops, and all of that went away. Ooh. So I made some major pivots in my business in 2020. I wrote a book. I launched a membership community for people in the talent development space. I also hosted a virtual summit that had about 2,000 people attend, and that was all marketed, of course, through LinkedIn and social media. And now since then I published the book, and I'm just building more around that, doing consulting, speaking with big companies, running this membership community, and just trying to grow and learn every day from guys like you about how to get better with content to build my business. And as you mentioned earlier, I'm a husband and a father as well. Live in sunny Orlando, Florida, right down the road from you guys. And that's me, man. Life is good.
I love it. I love it. And by the way, we're going to have to visit you in Orlando, right? So I think we're going to be down there in September. So
September for sure. Yeah. And, if I cave into my wife's desires of going to Disney every single weekend, probably earlier. So
there you go.
Yeah. Andy, man, thank you so much for sharing, and thank you for your kind words, right? And something that kind of my attention goes to it is your constant growth mindset, right? Like you're in this position where from the very beginning you were looking for these opportunities, right? You worked for this company and helping grow other people on other sides of those businesses, and then you recognize in yourself like, this is the path that I really want to go on. You took action and you started creating this momentum, and you produced something out of nothing. You're like, this is my thing, this is what I want to do. I am manifesting it and I'm taking action, and it's happening, right? To the event. And then, COVID, obviously, that was a crazy transition for many of us. For us was really challenging as well. We were helping a lot of brick and mortar businesses at the time who have to close, and we're like, we need to pivot, right? And things have been really awesome after that because taking action, right? So kudos to you, man. Like, thank you so much for sharing that. We understand it might not be the easiest path to like pivot like that, but you immediately started putting all this content out there, like the book, the podcast. You are in like every time I see your Instagram stories, which by the way is incredible. Keep publishing that way. I love it. It's like your calendar is like packed with interviews, packed with conversations, and it's incredible, right? So throughout the podcast, I would love to uncover a little bit of that. I don't know if FONZI, you have a question alongside of the...
Yeah, I have a question. You mentioned that in 2016, you started making big changes in your life, right? Mm-hmm. I'm curious to know what are those type of changes that, pretty much ignited the growth that you've seen today and that you keep experiencing today?
Yeah. So, rewinding back to early 2016, I've got a great consulting job, 6-figure job, a wife, a kid, another one on the way. Life looks really good, but something feels missing inside to me. I don't know what it is, but I'm just not really satisfied with what I'm doing, the way I'm living my life. I know there's more out there for me. I just don't know what it is. And luckily I came across, actually was listening to a podcast, and I heard a man named Hal Elrod, who wrote a book called The Miracle Morning. And I don't know what it was, but I immediately bought that book. I had never read a personal development book, but I'm like, I need to read this book and check this out. And so I got the book, read it right away, started practicing the Miracle Morning. And for those not familiar with the Miracle Morning, it's a morning routine. Basically, you get up an hour earlier than you need to start the day with a lot of intention, doing things like meditation, visualization, using affirmations, reading, writing in your journal, and getting some activity or some exercise. And I was already kind of a morning person, and I liked going and hitting the gym, but I wasn't doing these other things. And I started meditating for the first time. I started reading a lot more books, listening to a lot more podcasts, learning as much as I can about how to better myself as a person, as a man, as a husband, as a father, also in business, and started and really rediscovered entrepreneurship and listening to entrepreneurship podcasts and realizing this is where I really wanted to go. And luckily I came across, at first I went to Hal Elrod's conference, the Best Year Ever Blueprint event in San Diego that year. And I met some awesome people there, and then ended up joining this great dads group called the Dad Edge, run by Larry Hagner. Shout out to him. He's got a huge podcast called the Dad Edge. And I met a lot of amazing friends, and really started to build my personal brand there by helping a lot of people, sharing a lot of content, sharing a lot of my journey, and joined a mastermind that he set up. That is actually how I started my first podcast, because he said, everybody's got to set a big goal, do something, really awesome in the next 90 days. And I said, okay, I'm going to start a podcast, and learned everything from, people in the group, a couple guys there who already had podcasts. And then just kept learning and growing from there, and really set my sights on, I'm going to become an entrepreneur. I joined another mastermind group to help me with that transition. And that really was the catalyst to get me going to where I am today. And I still practice the Miracle Morning every day. I read every morning, I meditate every morning. And it's made a huge, huge difference in my life. And just to one more thing on that I think is really important for a lot of people. And I talk about this in my book as well, that, you don't necessarily have to practice the Miracle Morning or a morning routine, but self-awareness and self-discovery is so, so important. And it's like the most important step towards building your business, building your brand, finding career success, getting where you want to go. It all starts with really knowing who you are. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What do you like doing? What do you not like doing? And really starting to love and believe in yourself, so that you can go after those big goals, so that you can build a brand and put content on social media, whatever it is. That has helped me immensely. And I've seen how it's helped other people as well along the way. And it also gives you the kind of the confidence to go share all kinds of stuff on social media, which I know you guys are big on creating content. But how do you know where you're going to go if you don't really know yourself? And that was where I did a lot of real self-discovery, and then just a ton of growth since then. And like you said, I've been curious and hungry for growth ever since then, and I'm just trying to grow and get better every day.
Yeah.
Wow. I love it. I want to unpack here a little bit of what you said, those big changes, right? This is kind of like what I heard under the radar, right? The change of behaviors, right? Change of environment, consistent action. And then what you just mentioned, the most important part of all is that self-awareness and self-discovery, right? And I mean, I think it's amazing. It's simple, yet it's not easy, right? I mean, it's things that I feel like have crossed people's minds, but there's resistance in there for people to execute, to take action, or to do it long enough for it to work, right? But my immediate question comes into self-awareness and self-discovery, right? I think most people don't take the time to discover who they are, what they want, all these things, right? So how do you inspire these people? How do you help them get to that point where they want to do these exercises, where they want to discover who they are, right? Like, so they can start moving forward.
Yeah. So I think the two most important things for that are, number one, having the right questions you can come up with those on your own or leverage some great books that have questions. So my book, Own Your Career, Own Your Life, includes a lot of questions. I have a companion journal, includes a lot of questions, but I've read tons of other books, that have asked me the questions that have allowed me to really do self-discovery. And the second piece is having the space, which is very rare. It seems simple, but it's very rare that you make the space on a regular basis where you're just sitting down in a quiet place and thinking or looking at these questions and writing in a journal and answering. And we all have a million things going on, right? Work, emails, social media. If we're not creating content, we're consuming content. And, for those of us with families, with kids, kids are running around wanting our time as well. It's difficult to make that time, which is why, a lot of people say their best ideas come to them in the shower, right? Because it's the only time where you're not doing anything else. You're just by yourself in thought, right? But you can create more of that time intentionally, which is where the Miracle Morning came in for me, is having that time every morning, an hour or more, to be able to read and reflect and, ask yourself questions again, like, what do I really enjoy doing? What do I like doing? What do I not like doing? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? Where do I really want to get to in life? What's my dream? What's my mission? What's my purpose? Doing a core values exercise. What are my values? What's really important to me? And a lot of things are important to me, but when the rubber meets the road and we all have to make trade-offs with how we spend our time, what's really the most important? And is my schedule truly aligned with my priorities, with my values? The classic example is the person who says family is very important to me, but then they're working 80, 90 hours a week because they're trying to achieve some type of goal at work, which is totally fine, but it's not really aligned with what you say is really important to you. So really starting to reflect deeply on who you are, where you want to go, and are you living a life in alignment with those things? And if you're not, then starting to write down, okay, what are the changes that I need to make or I want to make? And who can help me with that? How can I go out and make those changes? It all starts with that, spending that time and having the right questions.
Andy, you have no idea how much this is resonating right now for us, because yesterday we did, like we mentioned in the intro, we did a full day of that for the company, for BIZBROS, right? Like along our journey in this past 5 years that we've been together as brothers and doing business together and building the team and offering the services in different aspects, right? There's been some ceilings that we've been able to hit as a company and also individually as a person, right? So every time we hit those ceilings, right, is this friction point that we encounter in the journey is a moment that we consider an indicator to where here's a level up opportunity where we can either, like you said, we can change behavior, we can change our environment, we can start exploring that self-awareness and that self-discovery, right? And it's been incredible because as I'm going back through our journey, as you were mentioning this framework, right? And I identified in each one of the moments, right? And in the last couple months, we were there, or I think we're still we're getting out of that next level up moment, and that's what primed that meeting yesterday. We're like, hey, we're gonna just disconnect for a full day. We're just gonna revisit this, and also internally, we had a really awesome conversation where it's hey, individually, where do we want to go, right? Because it got to the point where even though there's a team, there's different systems and processes that were not in place to be able to accommodate for those personal goals, those personal things, right? Like you said, family man, yes, I have my wife, I have my kid, right? I want to spend time with them, To me, a personal goal is I want to end my working day at 3 p.m., right? After that, it's workout time, family time. And curious enough, I am devouring the Miracle Morning right now. And nice. that's a thing that I'm going to start to implement as soon as possible, because those are things that throughout the mix and the execution and, doing this and all the stuff that gets thrown at us, we miss, right? And maybe at some degree we start executing that, but then we get so distracted by everything else and overwhelmed that we're curious that's the one thing that we sometimes relegate, where it has to become a priority, right? So a couple of weeks ago, my dog died, right? It was my first dog, 7 years, very unexpected. And he was a member of the family, right? And to me, that brought a ton of perspective, right? Because I wasn't spending time, with, we had 2 dogs, right? Now we have 1, but it was we weren't spending time with it. They're huskies. They need to run. They need to get out of there. We need to, you spend time with the family, with a kid. And I'm wow, that was a really eye-opening moment personally for me. And that immediately, and we don't need to wait for these moments of friction to hit us in our face to be implemented. So I love that you mentioned this from your own experience in your book. So the book, by the way, On Your Career, On Your Life, we're going to leave all the links right in the description. So if you guys want to go purchase, please go ahead. And if you're watching the video, he's probably showing it. This is so cool. So anyways,
I need to send you guys a copy. Yeah,
thank you, man. Don't worry. We'll purchase. We'll support in any way possible. Yes.
Absolutely. So
another bonus, like, I'm so glad that you guys did that for your business, because a lot of people in their business, they don't do that either, right? Everybody's caught working. They talk about working in the business versus on the business. You don't get a chance to really say, like, hey, let's take a day to strategize and get out of reaction mode. And that's great for a business. It's really great for us individually. The other big bonus to having some of that quiet time that I found, since this is a content show, I know we're going to get to content, is like most of my best post or content ideas come to me in the morning when I'm just sitting there with the journal. I'm like, oh yeah, I need to post about that. I need to post about that. And I'll just write them down. And then it's something I can go back to later on when I want to make time to post some content.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this, man. I'm loving this conversation, just, and again, I think things are aligning in a way in these days. We're getting on this topic of self-growth and core values. I personally think we have our mind primed at the moment to listen about these things. So the conversation got here at the perfect time, right? And you just mentioned something that reminded me of something I read this morning. I don't know if you're familiar with James Clear.
Yeah, a little bit. I know he produces some really great stuff that a lot of people love.
Yeah, so he's the author of Atomic Habits, and he has a newsletter, right? And this morning I was reading one of his newsletters, and he quoted this writer called Alice Walker, right? And I'm not going to read the full quote here, but this is part of it. Some periods of our growth are so confusing that we don't even recognize that growth is happening. We may feel hostile or angry or weepy and hysterical, or we may feel depressed. It would never occur to us unless we stumble on a book or a person who explained to us that we were in fact in the process of change, of actually becoming larger than we were before, right? So I love this quote because, sometimes in my life, I feel like that. I feel angry. I feel weepy, right? Like a little bit depressed, right? I feel down. And I know a lot of people feel that way as well. And man, like a book or content having, kind of like opening your perceptions to new possibilities. Yeah, it can help you change and achieve that growth, right? So where I want to go with this is, again, invite people to go purchase your book, right? Connect with you. Because, man, like you're in this path of opening people's minds and inviting them to think in, what can my life be if I actually get clarity in my path?
Yeah. And 2020 did that for a lot of us, right? So many of us, like, we both faced a big challenge where our businesses were essentially shut down. Yep. And we got a chance to make a pivot, and it worked out really well for us both, right? You can almost look back and say, I'm glad that happened, right? You got to, with sensitivity to everybody who went through really, really, really tough times. But it really turned out well for us in being able to pivot our business to get to where we need to be. And those challenges are where we often find the most growth, right? Yep. That's where we grow the most, because we're forced to make changes and really think about what we're doing. And I love, turning challenges into opportunities and really looking back and be like, man, it's so hard in the moment, but I'm so glad that happened because it got me to where I am today. And now I get to do X, I get to help so many other people as a result of that. And hopefully it creates some time, like you said, you dig in and you read books and along the way and listen to podcasts like this one, so that you can learn and get ideas and really get motivated.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious, right? We're, in the sense of content, how has it helped you, right, stay on this path of self-growth, right? I mean, for us, it has been a tool of reflection and accountability, right? In a sense, like hold yourself accountable with the listener, right? The person that is listening to this show right now, or the people that are following on Instagram, or that community that we start building. But I'm curious, in your path of self-growth, of reflection, right? Miracle Morning, how has content helped you? If it has helped you in a way, maybe you're just using it strategically to grow your business. But, I'm curious to see what is the role of content there.
Yeah, well, I mean, consuming content obviously has helped me tons because I read a lot of books. I listen to podcasts. I follow a lot of people on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn especially, and learn what other people are doing. And then creating content has really helped me immensely not just with growing my brand and my business, but really working out, who I am, what my brand is, helping me connect with other people, connect with a lot of people, realize that I have the power and the opportunity to really help and inspire a lot of people as well through the things that I'm doing and that I'm sharing on social media. And if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be able to help people, right? And a great example is what I went through recently. Right at the same time, you guys know, at the same time I published my book, I was also diagnosed with testicular cancer. And it was a rough time going through cancer and treatment through December, January, February, March of this year, 2021. And I shared a lot of that journey on social media along the way, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and connected with a lot of people who either resonated with it, have been through similar experiences, or their family have been through it. People have reached out to me and thanked me and said they leveraged, they used some of the things that I shared to help loved ones. And, I couldn't do that. I couldn't help them if I wasn't creating that content. And the other thing that I've learned along the way, whether it's cancer or anything else, is that if we are facing any kind of challenge, right, there's any hardship going on in our life, whether it's cancer or relationship issues or depression or business is not working out very well, you're not making as much money as you'd like to, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. We have this tendency to think that we're in it alone, or like this problem is unique to us, right? When the truth is, like, if you are facing any kind of challenge or you have some kind of feeling, there's probably at least 1 million other people out there that have the exact same issue.
Yeah.
And if you find a way to get through it or even share along the way, you're going to connect with other people who are going through the same thing. You're going to find some people who have already been through it and can offer help and guidance. And you're going to find people who are way behind you who are going to be looking to you for help. But it starts with sharing. Like, if you're not willing to be vulnerable and open up and share stuff, and I'm not just talking about content like, oh, look at me, I'm doing X, Y, Z, right? But actually sharing like what you're really going through, what you struggled with, solutions you found, you're going to find there's a lot of other people that have gone through similar stuff. And you're going to be able to connect with those people and find clients or mentors or whatever it is. I'm sure you guys have seen this plenty of times as well, which is the beauty of putting that content out there. And then it helps us grow as people and build our networks as well, which I love.
Yeah, absolutely. I it's so powerful because I think about the time that we got connected was around that time that you were launching the book and you were going through these personal changes. And to me, that caught a lot of my attention because not a lot of people are willing to share their. We hear like share your scars, but do not share your wounds. And recently we talked about this with George on his show, and I was like, wow, Andy's sharing like his wound. Like this is happening live and he's sharing this and he's staying very positive and he's like encouraging people and giving action points. Like this is, what I'm going through and so on. I thought that was so powerful. Right. And it made a connection internally with me, which I'm sure it happened with a lot of the people that you connected with. And I wrote something here as you were explaining. I put live affirmations, right? Going back to the miracle morning, right? We talk, one of the elements there is affirmations, right? Every single day, it's like, what are the things that we tell ourselves to crush those false beliefs or old beliefs, right? And how he talks about when he has short-term memory, right? And he started creating this affirmation, and 6 months later, somebody asked him, hey, do you want to call me tomorrow? And he's like, sounds good. And before that, he was like, no, I can't do it because I have short-term memory, like, and it's not working with me. And that moment he clicked, right? So for you, or maybe I don't know if this is a process that you went through, but in my head, I'm like, wow, publishing through these moments, right? It's not easy, right? We have to get to a level where we can be comfortable sharing these things, right? But at the same time, we're creating these live affirmations because guess what? I'm going to show up for the tribe. I'm going to show up for the people that listen to me. I'm going to show up and I'm going to continue to like reframe my brain live to help, but at the same time, I'm helping me. Wow. That, like, this is affirmation on steroids, big time. And I went through it with, obviously not at the level that you did, but for me, like when we lost Siki, that was the same thing. Like I published, I talked about it and it was challenging. There's still a couple things that I want to put out because for the first time in like years, I sat down and I wrote. Like FONZI loves to doing that thing. For me, it's more like I'm going to go on camera and say it, right? But for the first time, I switched the medium and I wrote, and it was helpful, so helpful. So at a personal level, right, that helps us big time and grow and put those thoughts into words at some degree, right?
Yeah.
What has been like, Do you remember the first time that you started this publishing, like not on the show, but like sharing real personal things? Like, do you remember that first time, and how did that feel?
Yeah, vulnerability is hard, right? I didn't just come out of the womb like this, right? It's taken a lot of learning and growth, and really reinforcing by hearing others and reminding myself that vulnerability is power, and we're willing to share what you're going through in your journey. That's really what connects with other people, right?
Yeah.
If I just keep saying every day, like, everything in my life is great, you ignore my post because you're like, that's whatever, that's cool, I can't connect with that guy. But when you're my dog died, I'm really feeling, honestly, like I'm feeling really sad about it. And I've been through that as well a few years ago. So many other people can relate to that, right? And they can connect with that. And I also want to just touch on the affirmations too, because those have been so helpful for me over the years. And I use those throughout the cancer challenge as well, saying like, I am going to be healed and cancer free. And Hal Elrod also went through cancer this past 2 years and had some affirmations around that I borrowed from him. In addition to others. And affirmations are also what got me to get my book published, because I'd been saying through all of 2020 that I will publish a book this year. And then I kept getting distracted. And then I got to like October and I was like, oh, I got to get this book done. I've been saying this all year. So then I set the date, November 16th. And, thank goodness I did, because then right around that time, I also started, experiencing pain and getting into the cancer stuff. And I got the book published before I really had to take a lot of time off. But going back to your question, like early on, I started sharing a lot of things openly, about me and helping others within the confines of a membership community, the dad's community I mentioned. And I think that's a great way to start for a lot of people, is like join a membership community or a mastermind group and start sharing within like the confines of a closed group before maybe you're putting things out into the world. You get good practice and you start to see what really resonates with people. When I started my podcast, completely interview based only. And though I thought about maybe doing some solo content, I was always scared, right? And really just had that thought, that imposter syndrome of like, well, nobody really cares what I have to say, right? They just want to hear from my guests. I'm just learning along with them.
Yeah.
And then there was a moment where I started sharing like, hey, here's some of the things I'm working on. Here's some of the things I'm thinking about. Or I get some questions from people and I'd start to answer those on the podcast. And I find that starts to really resonate with people. And it also builds my confidence and in being able to put stuff out there and realize like, I have some great stuff to talk about. And a big realization along this way, you guys have maybe been through this or seen clients go through this, that there's a lot of things I want to say. Some of them are going to resonate really well with some people and they're not going to resonate with others. And a lot of times we hold ourselves back. I know I did, because we're afraid of the judgment, right? Of the few people that are not really going to get it. And then I had this kind of revelation that if it's not for them, they can scroll on by. Like that doesn't, just like I do with some people's content. I don't stop and be like, oh, I don't really care about this. I just scroll on by, right? Or unfriend them or whatever. And they can do the same thing to me. And I remember when I had that, and it really empowered me to kind of double down on some of the things that I was sharing. And if someone had a negative thing to say about it, then I could just say, well, I know it's not for them. It's for somebody else. Meanwhile, I'm getting reinforcement from several people who are saying, you mentioned in the introduction to this that you've noticed I'm really into health and fitness. I love yoga. So I used to post a ton of like gym selfies and stuff. And there would be a few people that would like, make fun of me or make jokes about it or whatever. Right. And that could have stopped me. But at the same time, I would have so many people all the time come up to me or reach out and say, I really appreciate you, posting the stuff about the gym and the accountability. You inspired me to get back into shape, to go to the gym. I've lost 15 pounds because of you or whatever. And I'm not even a personal trainer, right? It's not my business.
Yeah.
It's just something that I'm really passionate about. And I really want to help and inspire people to go out and get in better shape too. And I know I was able to help people because I was willing to share what I was doing, what I was going through, and really, kind of ignore the naysayers or the judgment, because it's always going to be there, especially when you're posting a lot about, certain subjects. I mean, you got to pay attention to what's resonating, right? But your content is not going to be for everybody.
That's such a valuable lesson. We've lived several stages too with our content, right? And I remember everybody and our coaches in our masterminds and the groups, the paid memberships, were like, you guys got to publish. You guys got to put yourself out there. And we were doing at some degree for some clients, right? And it really came to like one moment where we had a presentation of stuff that we're doing for other people. And they were like, but where's yours, right? Like, where's your stuff? And we're like, oh, gut punch. And that question like made us rethink the whole, like how we were doing things. And we started our first 45 live season, just FONZI and I, going live in Facebook for 45 days straight. And that was an incredible journey. And then we did it again a second time. And then we did it a third time with a group of people. And it was incredible, right? And then it evolved into the show. And with the show on its own, you know, we talk about this concept, publishing pyramids, right? And the pyramid of the show started also interview based, right? And now we're getting a ton of feedback from people that love us, that have been following the journey, like, guys, we want more of you. Like, tell us more about you guys. Like, what is it? What are those lessons? And you know, that's the path that you also walked, right? And it's incredible to see this, because as you execute on this process, right, there's a lot of growth as a person, as an entrepreneur, right? For companies, I feel like companies, that's a whole topic that we could dive into, but a lot of what holds them back is fear, right? And it's that fear of rejection from that customer, right? And what you said is like, it's gonna be for some people, right? And this is allowing us to create these points of contact to filter and get to the people that really resonate with our message, that really resonate with our services, that really resonate with our product, right? And that change of perspective is what helped us continue to move forward, just like you did, right? Like you started finding those people and you're like, man, let me grab that one positive comment, right? It's like, if I can help one person, right? If I can help one person, it's worth it. And then if we
100%.
Continue to do that consistently, it's gonna grow.
Yeah.
And a lot of those people don't even, sorry to interrupt, a lot of those people don't even engage with your content, right? They'll send you a direct message. You'll see them on the street back in the old days when I used to see people in person, right? Run into people at the gym or somewhere and they're like, oh, I've been seeing your stuff. I really appreciate you posting that. Or you really inspire me to do this. And, you know, or people like see a post and they'll send me a message and say, well, I don't really do comments on social media because everybody has different comfort levels with it, right?
Yeah.
But I want to send you a message just to say thank you for this or whatever. And like you said, if you can help one or two people, it's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we often use that example of, imagine you're in a room, right? Usually we use the example with people complaining about not getting enough people tuning in to their live show or anything. We're like, dude, imagine being in a room with 5 people sitting in there just giving you their attention. Like, that's intimidating, man. Like, I remember when we were working for the fitness company. Well, it was me and my brother. I was kind of like contracting with them, and I had to stand up and give like a little presentation about social media. And all these people were my friends, right? Like, there were maybe like 10 people in there, and they were all my friends. We would go and party together. Like, I knew them, and I stood up in front of them. And I started sweating, dude. I got so sweaty because I was so nervous. And those were 10 people that I knew, right? So it's the same with the impact thing. It's like, imagine you change only one person's life, how impactful that is. Because that one person is going to go and change somebody else's life. And, you know, it's a change that happens. And the first thing that comes to mind where you were talking about worrying about what other people might think, right? I think it's the story when I feel this was like the first time that I went live and to make an offer, right? To the audience that at the moment I didn't even have, right? And we got challenged. Everybody in this room, we were at a mastermind actually, coincidentally. And the guy said, I challenge everybody in here to go and make an offer right now live on Facebook or Instagram, right? Because a lot of people just share about their life and their struggles, right? Or maybe they share something here and there. But when it comes to business, guess what? You need to make an offer too, right? That's the way you're going to bring people into your business. So we're like, okay, let's go outside. And I remember so clearly that I was like shaking. I was so scared.
I get so nervous when it comes to sales and stuff like that too.
Exactly. I was like, am I going to make an offer, right? Like, oh my gosh, am I going to like, 50% of my following is going to leave me? At that point, I was like, oh, what's going to happen? So also, I was so afraid of what people around me would say, right? I'm like, oh, look at all these other people recording their videos live already. What are they going to think about me when they see me shaking or sweating on this? I was just putting so many stories in my head. Honestly, they probably didn't even care. They probably had their own stories in their head that they had to worry about. So it was so challenging. And I grabbed the phone and I was like shaking and sweating. And at the end, I kind of like hid under behind a column. And I did the live, I did the offer. And when I finished, I was like, not even a single person tuned in. I don't feel bad. I actually feel kind of like liberated. Right? And then I remember that moment was like, it just clicked for me. Like, guess what? Like, you cannot control what other people think. You can just control what you think, right? So why not do it more? Because if I get to connect with that one person, we might be able to change their life. And that's already a win in our book.
And you didn't die either, right? You did
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely. I mean, I almost like passed out dehydrated from all the sweat, but
I know the feeling. Yeah. And now, like, you're doing these lives all the time.
Yeah.
I do some of my interviews live. I'm no problem coming on here live with you. But the first couple times, like, oh man, so scary.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Andy, thank you so much for your time. It's been incredible. We have 2 last questions to wrap up the show with.
I have a third one that I want to ask.
Like
a selfish question.
Selfish question?
Yeah,
all right, sounds good. Let's do this. So, Andy, what is like your number one tip for people that are in this journey of starting their businesses, right? Starting to publish. Maybe they have a business, right? But they're in that phase where like, should I publish? Like I need to commit and move forward. What is your number one action point for them to start creating that momentum and impact?
We've talked a lot about a lot of it. Let me bring it all together and say that you have the power and opportunity and ability to build a brand and to impact other people. And you can't do it until you start. You're also probably going to be bad when you start, and you need to get that practice to grow. But you can't become good unless you start off with the bad, right? And get those reps and get that practice. The problem is, like you said earlier, fear holds a lot of people back. Fear of judgment, fear of rejection, and fear of failure. Those are the 3 big fears. And you look at other people and you think, oh, wow, everyone else seems so fearless, and I have these fears that are holding me back. And the truth is, everybody has fears. Fear is natural. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is recognizing that fear and saying, I'm going to take action anyway, right? Yep. Saying, I am scared to go live and make this offer. I am scared to post this content. I don't know what people are going to say, what they're going to think, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm going to learn from the experience. And maybe people really engage with it. They love it. They get benefits from it. Maybe you get crickets, right? And nothing happens, like with one of my posts yesterday. So, okay, I'm going to put that in my head. I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to get better the next time. And confidence comes from building experience. Every time you do that, you build that experience. And as you build that experience, you build confidence. Then you no longer have that fear of going live or posting that thing on social media or whatever it may be. But you've got to do it the first time. You got to just starve your fears, which is a phrase I stole from Grant Cardone in his book, The 10X Rule. I mentioned it in my book as well. You got to starve your fears. You got to just take action. You got to do it and then learn from it. And with a growth mindset, which is a whole chapter I have in my book as well, with a growth mindset, you have this belief that we're always learning and growing, and there is no such thing as failure. There is only learning and growth. And when you have that mindset, you have that belief, you can go out and try and do anything. Anything is possible, but you can't accomplish any of the goals unless you start. So you just got to start. You got to put it out there and see what happens.
Yeah,
absolutely. We love these action points, right? We want to help people move into action, especially because in today's space, digital marketing, the info product space, and the content space, honestly, there's so much content out there. I feel people just fall into the consuming side of things. And, honestly, that bridge to their solutions is taking action. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Second to last question. Here we go.
Wait, before that one, the selfish question.
Oh, okay.
All right. So, Andy, my selfish question is, you're a person that you say you read a lot, you listen to a lot of podcasts, right? What has been a book that has challenged your way of thinking, your beliefs? What one book that you said like, wow, this is really good?
The book, I've read a lot of great books. The book that I come back to daily, that I don't know if I would say it necessarily challenges my beliefs, but it really helps shape my beliefs, is a book called The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday. And it's 366 days of affirmations based on the teachings from the Stoics like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus. Every day there's a quote and then kind of a translation for modern times. And I try to read that every day. I don't always get to it every single day, but most mornings I'll read it with my kids. And it's really my Bible. It really is. And there's so many great lessons in there. And some of them you read and they're like, okay, that doesn't really resonate with me. But some of them are so powerful. Like just for example, the one today was about using kindness and responding to people who are cruel or mean to you with kindness, because it's something that they would never expect, and it really just shuts them down. And we want to create more kindness in the world versus fighting or that sort of thing. Just a lot of great wisdom in there, and it's a book I've gifted to a lot of people, and I come back to every day.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. Fun coincidence, I'm actually reading right now Lives of the Stoics by Ryan Holiday.
There you go.
Yeah, but we need to get our hands on that book, The Daily Stoic. So thank you.
It's coming. It's all pulled out over here.
By the way, I have the hardback and the Kindle. And as you were talking a few minutes ago, I pulled up the Kindle from today because I remembered it. I took a screenshot and I posted it on my Instagram stories. Boom! Content in action.
Man,
that is right. That's what's up.
I love it. I love how you're like execution mode in your content. Like, and this is one of the things that we talked about every single day and on the workshop as well. It's like, come up with your own framework. A lot of people are like going out and trying to model these things, but if it doesn't work for you, we cannot sustain the consistency, right? And you find a way to create this incredible experience and document, right, every single time, and you remove the friction, because in 2 seconds you do that and you know exactly what you want to share, right? And I think that's super important. So, I mean, we could dive into that side of things like for another hour, but we're gonna leave it for part two, round two. Now, last questions. Last question in singular, just one. Where will you be if you did not start publishing?
Like if I didn't ever create any content, I was just kind of living one of those lives where like I don't do social media, where would I be?
Yep.
I think I would still be working in a consulting job. I would be probably doing fairly well financially, have my family and everything. It's not like I would be destitute or anything, but I would not be nearly as fulfilled in my life as I am right now. Because I know I have such a mission and a purpose in life to really help and inspire others. And I love building that brand and building what I would call a personal brand business. And a lot of that relies a lot on content. I mean, I've built a lot based on relationships and network as well. And, you don't have to be on social media for that. But I have connected with so many great people because of content that they created, that I created, that, people interact with. And so I would not be nearly as successful. I wouldn't be on this show right now. And let's face it, this is like the pinnacle of success right here.
Thank you. Let's go. We're going to take that crowd. It's going crazy.
Thank you.
Andy, thank you so much. I mean, I'm sure you say that to everybody, but I appreciate We're going to take that and we're going to run with it and own it. And I appreciate you, man, especially like, after your publishing journey has been incredible, right? Like from your daily, pieces of content documenting to the interviews that you do, you're guesting all the time, you're sharing your message, and that's commitment to your mission and your purpose, right? Like you mentioned, it is so incredible to feel so fulfilled moving forward. And yesterday we had that conversation. It's like, what is actually the purpose of the things that we're actually doing today, right? And that sometimes is not an easy conversation to have, but it is so necessary, right? And we realign a lot of the things, and we immediately identify that FONZI was going this way, I was going the other way, and we're like, okay, is this really what we want? Like, how can we like bring it together again and continue to do that? Not that things are wrong. It's just like we need just to like reassess the journey, right? And it's incredible to see that with you as well, and crushing it and helping so many people, man. I'm very excited for what's coming to you in your world. We're gonna leave all your links right below the book, your social media. Please follow Andy. Incredible, getting his world. He has something under the hood, getting ready for it and prepping that you need to know. So go follow him so he can let you know as soon that's out, because so much gold.
Absolutely. But just in case, Andy, just in case people, maybe might be too lazy to use their thumb to scroll down, where can they connect with you?
Oh, for you lazy people who don't want to scroll. I'm everywhere on social media. LinkedIn is my big platform because I'm in the corporate world, but Instagram and Facebook as well. The book is called Own Your Career, Own Your Life. It's available on Amazon. And if you're in the corporate space and you're looking for ways to accelerate your career success, and maybe you don't want to read the whole book, or in addition to the book, I have some free resources available. If you just go to ownyourcareerownyourlife.com/bonus, There's a guide there, the 5 steps to owning your career, the 3 questions to ask when you face any big challenge, and the 5 most common career mistakes that people make. All of that is on my website, ownyourcareerownyourlife.com/bonus for free. Just head on over there and grab it. Connect with me on social. Let me know that you heard me on the Content is Profit podcast, because it's the best podcast. And thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. The pleasure was ours, man, Andy. This is incredible. Just so you know, since we're so close here in Florida, we're going to have to do a live episode one of these days.
Yes.
You know, maybe we can do a full day of biking, yoga, podcasting, you know, all the good stuff.
And surfing. We got to get Pablo to teach us surfing.
I know.
Sounds like a plan.
Arepas too. I mean, we need to. There's so many awesome places to eat some arepa. Venezuelan arepas down there. Oh, so awesome. All right, Andy, any last thoughts before we head out?
You guys are awesome. Everybody listening, you are awesome. You have things to share with the world. So get out there and do it. Let's all make the world a better place.
Woo! With that said, guys, thank you so much for tuning into the Content is Profit podcast. Go ahead and follow the show in your favorite platform and follow us on social media at BIZBROS Co.
That is right. And if you find today's episode impactful, if Andy helped you move one step closer to your goal, please don't forget to share it and leave a 5-star review. Thank you.
Bye, guys.